Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from the monsoon season of the Pacific Northwest. Good afternoon for those of you in the central time frame over, and good evening over in Europe, and I guess all the way back to, is it good morning over in Asia? Well, it'd certainly be very early morning. So thank you for joining us for the weekly webinar. Today's a real special treat because it brings together a couple of initiatives that we're involved in. It's a completely academic webinar, so I think you're going to like it. We'll get to that in a moment. A little bit of housekeeping. Be sure to use the chat feature to ask your questions. And then tune in next week for the webinar on the 30th when we have Zenstra talking about hybrid server and cloud solutions. So if you want to bookmark that now, we'll have the registration up shortly. Couple of things going on with SMB Nation. I will be at the D&H Distributing Show on the day after the election, so I believe that's November 5th up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So that's their fall show with about 1,100 attendees. Melanie Goss, who does a lot of stuff with us, is giving the Windows Server 2003 end of support speech the very same day down in Philadelphia with Channel Pro, so be sure to hit that one if you're in that area. Keep your eyes open for a 7-city tour we're going to be announcing in the next week or so for the first half of 15 regarding Office 365, and then I'm also pleased to announce we have Azure Nation coming up May 1 through 3 in Redmond, Washington at the Microsoft Conference Center. A lot of momentum building for that. Boy, people want to have that conversation. Today, we'll get to Ken in a moment, but today we're talking about a Board of Advisor concept, and Ken's put a wrapper on it in terms of maybe you're ready, maybe you aren't. And Ken, it's always a real treat. Ken, we'll get to you in a moment. If we could go to the next slide, please. I want to give a shout out to something we're doing that's got legs, and that's the O365 Nation site. We're using a fairly chippy attitude and a modern look to the website to cover anything and everything 365. It's been up for a couple of months, so we found our legs. And what's interesting now is the flow of news. Since we launched in beta back at WPC in mid-July, where I saw Ken, and then we launched for real on Labor Day weekend, and the quantity of Office 365 news is growing exponentially. So my job is actually getting harder to synthesize that. There's a really good article today in the upper right about how not-for-profits can get 365 E3 licenses for half price. Now, with all that housekeeping and self-promotion aside, Ken, let's move on. Sir, introduce yourself to the audience that is not aware of who you are. And what are we going to talk about today, Ken? Let's rock and roll.
Hey, thanks, Harry. It's excited to be here on this day that fall starts to come upon all of us. But I think it's important that we're going to talk today about you. We're going to work with you today on saying, how am I going to build a sustaining and a growth model around a partner-focused organization? I'm going to share with you some ideas as you think about 2015 and what you need to do to be successful. I'm going to share some ideas around how we can work together to help each other. And I think that's an important philosophical issue. I think it's a cultural issue where partners can come together, share ideas, learn from each other, and be successful. That's been the heart and soul of SMB Nation, and I think what we're really talking about today is the SMB Nation Board of Advisors. But more importantly, we really want to have you make sure you write that URL down to learn more about what we're going to be talking about today. But primarily today, I want to share some ideas with you around your business. I've been working with partners now for over 15 years, helping them look at their business model, look at their marketing and sales machine, and really grow their business. I put this slide up here not to talk about me, but to give you a resource. On the very bottom of the screen, you can see my website, acumenmanagement.com. There are free white papers out there, free columns, free videos on your business modeling. There's a free business assessment I would encourage you to take. There's a free sales, leadership, or management assessment you can take. You can also find my books out there, and you can subscribe to my newsletter that's been going on now for 8 years every month, Why Sales Managers Succeed. Whether you're your own salesperson, your own president of your company, and you drive everything, there's usually 3 good ideas in that newsletter, one on personal commitment, one on professional commitment, and one on organizational commitment. So good stuff. As you can see that we've been ranked in the top 50 sales and marketing influencers for 3 years in a row, and that's a worldwide organization. So we're really happy about that. My blog, yoursalesmanagementguru.com, has been ranked in the top 20 in the U.S., top 30 in the world. So it's good content there that's free and available to really help you become a more successful organization. But I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about you. What are you doing in your business today, and how are you bringing it together? What's your strategy? What are your tactics? What are your role? And then how well do you execute on all of that? Today we're going to talk a little bit about business planning and ideas that we have that we help our clients put together programs to make them more effective, to allow them to grow from wherever they are to that next level. That's why I said maybe you're ready to grow, maybe you're not. After today, after this program, I hope you are ready to grow and drive revenue and drive profits. Now the sad part that we see with a lot of Microsoft partners, a lot of partners in general, Cisco partners, everybody in the solution provider marketplace, we see them sitting and having a business, and they may have 2 employees, they may have 20 employees, and as they start to grow, they hit certain levels, and all of a sudden they turn around and they're all gone because of a lot of problems. And we see this happening at about 10 employees. We see it again happening at 15. We see it at 25. Then it kind of leaps to about 45 employees. So what I'm going to try to share with you today is some ideas and thoughts about how to make sure your business can cross that chasm of growth. First of all, the 3 words that I use, that if you listen to any of my workshops over the last 15 plus years, you may have heard me say, you got to have discipline. You got to have accountability, and you have to have control. Now, I'll take 2 minutes on each of this whole slide, but discipline is really the concept of training that improves your employee base. That your technical teams are trained not only in the technical aspects, but how they represent your company. Accountability. As an executive, I did a study a few years ago in the solution provider channel. The #1 problem with most entrepreneurs was holding the direct reports accountable. And it's really an important aspect. People want discipline and accountability in the business. Control is the last aspect, and it's not micromanagement, but it's really about building a recipe for your business. I have about 150 cookbooks. When I'm home, I like to cook, and it's a hobby of mine. And I think every business needs to think of itself as a restaurant. What is your recipe for customer service? What are the components around that? What is your recipe around marketing and sales and revenue generation, let's put it that way? And administratively, what's your recipe to make sure things get done on time? Last Thursday, I took my boat down the lake, pulled it up on the dock. They serviced it for winter, pulled it back, and drove it into my dock for the winter. And I got a bill today. That's pretty good service accountability. There was a control function that within X number of days of that service, the invoice was in my hands. So it's important to think about that, and that's what control really is you set a standard for what you expect, and you hold everyone accountable to hitting that standard. So as we move through that, we really see a lot of organizations like this. We see a lot of partner organizations where at a certain point in time, they're either growing rapidly and the wheels are coming off, or they're not growing rapidly enough to generate cash flow and the wheels are falling off. So, as I said, I love food. And I love pizza. And anybody who's seen me knows that I enjoy pizza. I think it's an important element. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to share with you a whole variety of ideas around business planning today, around sales and marketing planning and a whole variety of things. And it's going to be a wonderful deep dish, 3 cheese, pepperoni, sausage, olive, green pepper, anchovy kind of pizza. And you're going to get overwhelmed. What I really want to do is suggest to you today that you pick the 1 slice you want. Choose the 1 slice you can eat and focus on that for the next 60 days between now and the end of the year. And as you move to 2015 and beyond, maybe you eat a 2nd slice and a 3rd slice. So as you go through your cycle of your business, you improve certain aspects of it. Because if you try to eat the whole pizza at one time, it becomes impossible. So what really drives successful partner organizations? Well, in our work, it's great management decisions based upon logic, people and culture. What kind of culture are you building? We're not going to get into that today, but that's a critical emotional aspect of leadership. What kind of activity levels are you expecting of your technical teams, your sales teams, your administrative teams? And what are the results that we are driving for our customers? Because if we're driving the right results for our customers, we're going to see those results as a company. So what are the challenges that we see most entrepreneurs facing? And these are ideas that we'll talk about in the Board of Advisors program to make sure that we're focused around the market issues, about do we have the right product mix in the portfolio, what are we doing to separate ourselves from our competition, and then what kind of management systems are we having, what are the financial results, what kind of reporting capabilities do we have out of our accounting and the customer software systems. And clarity is probably the #2 biggest issue. What's your mission, your vision, what's your value proposition, how do you stand out in the marketplace? And then on the last side, we got to handle human resources, that's the people, and we got to think about cash and what's our time management issues. So we're going to cover a whole variety of issues as we go through the program around creativity, communication styles. We'll be talking about how the people who have made that growth pattern that went from 5 to 15 employees or 15 to 35 employees, or whatever your goals and objectives are, we're going to give you a pathway and ideas of how to do that, a very prescriptive approach to make that happen. So let's start with some of that right now and say, how do we really make sure that we focus on the right crucial market dynamics? Harry talked about Office 365. The other day I was speaking to someone up in Redmond. They said that so far now that is the fastest growth curve from a license perspective of any Microsoft product ever. So is that the right market dynamics for you, however? That has to be important. Then you got to create and execute business plans and measure performance. We've been doing a lot of work around cloud. At SMB Nation this fall I spoke about how to build a cloud practice or a mobility practice. Well, what we have found in our research is a lot of people jump into a product, they jump into a solution, but they really haven't built a business plan around that particular product. It doesn't have to be sophisticated, but we'll show you exactly how to do some of those things. And then what are you doing culturally, emotionally, to bond your employees to your success factor? The first thing, I'll just give you a quick tip there. You should be having your customers come to your office to talk to your employees, or take your employees to the office of the customer and have the customer tell all your employees how happy they are with you, what your products or service did for them to build belief. That's just one of the things we'll share with you about how to build a culture. So what do you have to do to break out and grow? And that's what we frame this kind of break out and grow. You got to create a vision of where are we headed over the next 3 years, what do I expect to be. Then you got to get a commitment around all your employees. So we'll talk about leadership styles and management styles. There's 5 leadership styles, 5 management styles. So you got to build commitment of your employees to follow you. I just finished a book called Killing Patent. You may have heard of it. It's a wonderful book, but it also talks about leadership styles and understanding the challenges you face. And then build a roadmap. We won't have time to show you how to build a roadmap today, but we'll actually help build a roadmap. So if you have 5 objectives for your company in 2015, you have to have a roadmap of how I'm going to achieve those 5 objectives and how do we move forward from that area. And the last aspect is inspecting. How do you inspect what you expect? One of the classic management phrases we use for years, to inspect what you expect from your employees. And what we try to do is define that kind of business planning by department and have the patience for execution. So let's talk about business planning quickly here. It's really a process to establish the goals and objectives. Now, typically people do it annually. They throw it away and look at it when they have to do it annual. What we suggest is that you need to do that quarterly. Now, a lot of times when I ask for business plans, I get a spreadsheet that says, this is what I'm going to sell, these are my costs, these are my expenses, and that's what we see. We really don't, I think that's important, but we want to take it much more of a step further. We want to have a basis for functional plans based upon what we're going to do from an outcome perspective. And we want to see them detailed enough so that individuals who lead your departments or who are individuals who are in the departments who know the business plan know what you're going to expect of them, maybe quarter by quarter for the whole year, so they're functional. So where do we start? And these are the questions you really want to write down. I would recommend you do that if you're not doing this now. Now, I have a small business. These questions go through my head all the time, but formally, they go through my head starting about now, where I start to carry my business plan with me once a quarter when I travel. I pull it out, and I start to go through these questions. What went well last year? What didn't go so well? Where did I fail? What were my critical success factors, and how many of them did I achieve? Now, I always say more critical success factors than I have, but I hit a lot of them, so I keep moving the ball. So what are the key drivers of my business? We'll talk about that briefly today, the key drivers of your business. Key drivers aren't orders, aren't contracts, so we'll talk about that. What are the key metrics? We like to get 4 to 5 metrics for sales, marketing, 4 or 5 for administration, so we create our little dashboard. What are the risks and opportunities for my business? What are some of the specific factors you'll be facing in 2015? New products? An employee that's retiring? What assumptions are you making about the market? Well, the market today is up 200 and some points in the stock market. That may breed well for us in November and December. What assumptions did you make about your product offerings in 2014? And what assumptions are you making about the company in 2014? As entrepreneurs, as owners, we need to be thinking 6 months at least forward thinking about what's the organization look like. This is a great time of year to sit down and think about the whole year, what you'd like to hire from a headcount perspective, what kind of revenues do you want to drive, how you're going to drive those revenues. And I'll share with you this very important key business driver. Of everything we're going to share with you today, this becomes a very important aspect. On the left-hand side, you simply write down the practice areas of your business. And I just put in a few around managed services, SharePoint, unified communications, networking, professional services. And then what you do is you say, how much of my revenue in 2015 are going to come from net new customers? And how much of that revenue by practice is going to come from my current customers? This is an important element because we know if we sell our current customers that our margin rate usually is higher than when we sell net new. Cost of sales, marketing, and everything else impacts net new. But I have to sell net new customers. So to break out and grow, you have to sit down and say, where do I want to grow my business? Well, first of all, my current customer base and my new customer base, let's just take a look at, let's look at unified communications as just an example. I want 65% of my revenue from UC coming from net new customers and 35% from my current customer base. Well, what does that mean to me? Well, as a business person, I know to capture net new customers, I'm going to have a more aggressive marketing approach around unified communications to net new to capture that much revenue. On managed services, I expect 75% coming from my current base. That means I'll spend less time, less money marketing to my current customer base, but I still have to have a focus around that. From a compensation perspective, if you have a salesperson, I may have to skew my sales compensation plan around paying higher commissions for unified communications for net new customers to be able to do that. So compensation is impacted by this. And your pro forma and your P&L statements are impacted. So this is the first place we stop in the entire business planning issue. Now, we call it the ESTEEM formula. This is how to really increase your sales, lower cost of sales, improve your productivity, and really focus on how do I increase my market penetration so I can build a methodology to manage. This is really what we talk about building a sustaining business model. So what is the ESTEEM formula? It's assessing your current environment. What is your strategy? What's the tactical effect you have to get into? From an execution perspective, what do you do? How do you evaluate if you're doing it right, and how do you measure it? So it's a very simple process we built into this, but it's key to sit down and go through it. And I'm not suggesting this is a 5-day off-site project. This is just a mental aspect of saying, I'm going to think through my business, I'm going to break out and grow, and I want to do more. So let's look at the environment. Well, the first thing around the environment, you say, what's the market? Are we in a good economic market? Are we in an interesting technological revolution or upgrade market? What are the company dynamics that I have in my company? Do I have enough people? Do I have positive people? Do I have people who are willing to go along? And what are my resource dynamics? Cash flow, banking relationship. What's my ability to grow? Where am I lacking in growth? So you want to look at your market dynamics, do some research, take a look at your existing competition, take a look at your new product potential. And what are the market trends for 18 months? Can we ride the cloud thing? What's the impact of mobility in the marketplace? And really, what's my opportunity from a resource perspective? From a strategy perspective, then I want to look at what's my business model? How do I make money? That's an important question a lot of people don't ask. And in the Board of Advisors program, we'll be talking about how do you make money and how do you grow from that perspective. What's your value proposition? The second biggest problem most partners have, and we'll be spending time on that in the Board of Advisors and in the marketing programs, in that we'll be talking about how do you differentiate yourself in the market. Let me give you a little tip. Today, when you go back to your office, print out the first page of your website. Go to 3 of your competitors and print out their first pages of their website. And then take a red marker and circle all the common words between your website and their websites. And then take a green marker and underline the unique words that are in your website, their websites, that aren't in each other's websites. And you'll start to figure out how they're positioning themselves and how you look and see to your competitive audience. Most partners say the same thing. You want to differentiate yourself. And in corporate objectives, what do you want to do? You want to position for a merger acquisition, either on the sell side or the buy side? Do you want to be able to position it so the employees take over the business? Do you want to add 8 net new customers per quarter? What are your objectives and what's your strategy to achieve that? So you really have to think about the business model of how I make money. How is real profit generated? We know professional services is a major issue. We know managed services from a reoccurring revenue model. Certainly from a cloud perspective, it's critical. In our cloud program, our Partner Cloud Acceleration program, we know that partners will pick up 6 to 8 new cloud applications a year to get greater wallet share of their customers. So that's why operationally you have to be brilliant. And that's part of the Cloud Acceleration program to be able to do that from that perspective. And then what are your realistic goals and your stretch goals? What is your management team goals? What is your personal stretch goals for the company? And that's an important element as you go. So from a tactical perspective, how do I develop the resources? Better banking relationships, more people, better trained people. What are my physical resources? Is my office big enough to manage my staff? Or do I have to start looking for a new office? What kind of programs do I need to develop? Maybe I need to repackage my managed service offering because it's old, it's boring, it's not competitive anymore. Or I need to create programs around thought leadership. And what's my rollout and launch program? This is where a lot of entrepreneurs don't spend enough time in saying, I need to change my business. I need to elevate my growth. But they don't spend enough time saying, what do I have to do over the next 90 days, 6 months to get my employees to buy in? But then what are the 25 things I need to execute on, 2 a month or 5 a month over the next X number of months in order to launch and be successful? I'm launching a program right now with a client, and we sat down and created a project plan. And it's painful, but now we have a project plan for operations, marketing, and sales. We have all the things that have to happen. We have the person responsible, and we have start dates, draft dates, and finalized dates. And we can track where everybody is, and you have a status meeting. And believe me, it's easier to do that with 5 employees than it is with 50 employees. So getting your act together to break out and grow as a small organization is better than any time. So that's talking about training employees and creating a plan builder to be able to execute. That's the tactical effect. Now in execution, we really want to think about a couple of things there. What's the short-term focus? What do we have to do in the next 30 days to launch this program? What do we really have to do maybe in the next 90 days? It's a longer-term program that we have to think about, and who's responsible for those? And long-term, it might be 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18 months of these are the things that I want to move to. I want to open a second office. I want to add, a partner in this area. We talk about business ecosystem partners, whereas small solution providers, we need to find 4 or 5 other solution providers who sell non-competitive but related products and services to the same market. And we're going to cover some of those concepts in the Board of Advisors from that perspective. And build long-term commitment. That's how you get commitment from your employees and personally yourself, that when times get tough, that you can execute on those elements. So that becomes all the critical success factors of the business. Now, from an execution perspective, we like to suggest you create a vision or drive statement. This is your emotional statement that states the emotional requirement to grow and the tactical element that you need to execute. You plan a kickoff event where if you have 5 employees or you have 50 employees, you want to get people fired up about it. It's your opportunity to sell your vision, and then you show them the 90, 24-month plan of how you're going to grow from that perspective. Now, the second part of that is build commitment, and it's saying, how do I want to build commitment from that perspective and get people excited about it by creating a selling leadership position to do that. The last piece is starting to be the evaluation piece, where how do we evaluate the market dynamics? What do I mean by this? Well, you had a goal in January 2015 to achieve certain aspects. And you assumed that the market was good, stock market was good, the business market was good. But every quarter, you now need to sit back and say, is it what I anticipated it to be? Is it growing as fast as I anticipated? Is something else, has something occurred in that 90-day period where it didn't happen? And you do this every quarter on an evaluation. Are your strategic objectives still valid? Are you hitting your strategic objectives? Were they realistic? This is the quarterly review that we'll have in the Board of Directors to say, are we really achieving where we're hitting the markets? What's the tactical execution, and did I execute well on the plans that I have? And that's why whether you're a 2-person company, a 20-person company, or a 200-person company, and it's smaller, it's easier to do this, you need to have a quarterly review. I do this when I'm on an airplane. I pull out my business plan and say, am I working effectively against my plan or my goals, objectives? Did I forget about something? Did I execute on it? What's your honest evaluation? Are the trends still valid? Are my business assumptions still valid? If so, great. If so, why didn't I execute well? Or maybe I executed well, I haven't achieved it yet, or I can cross it off that I hit the mark. And so then you have to build your formula for success. That's what we call it the ESTEEM formulazation. It's a measurement of what we're talking about. You need to assign accountability. And this is what we have a tool, we won't have time to go through today, but it's a tool we have that says what kind of accountability and who's accountable for it. So you list the objective, you list what has to happen in order for you to achieve that objective, you list when you're going to achieve that objective, and who's accountable for getting each of the steps that happen to get done. You may want to install CRM as one of your operational objectives. Well, you got to make a decision on which solution you're going to purchase, who's going to do that, who's going to learn it, who's going to implement it, who's going to convert your data, who's going to train everybody how to use it, and who's going to continue to be on board with that program. So all of that becomes critical in what we call the roadmap. And that's the control system. So once you have that, you can build your dashboards. And I'm going to share some examples with you on dashboards here in a moment of things that other successful solution providers are providing. And then you build your standards model. I like to suggest, I'm sure if I asked everybody to raise their hand, you've all been to a Subway sandwich or the company. What happens at a Subway? You walk in, what do they ask you? And I'm talking about Subway sandwiches, not New York City. I'm talking about the opportunity when you walk in, what do they ask you? 6-inch or 12? Once you define 6-inch or 12, they go, what kind of bread? And then they take the bread, they cut it, and they start moving you down the aisle. Chicken, spinach, olives, what kind of sauce do you want on it? Boom, 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 and they move you right through the process. That's how you have to think about building your business today, especially in a cloud mobility environment. We're going to work with you on how to build a sustaining business model based around Subway sandwiches. Or we can talk about Pizza Hut. I don't care. It's an important element to think about your recipe, but having the discipline, the ability not to make everything custom, but to increase the velocity of your business, but increase the execution capability of your business as well. So you really want to make sure that the business model is right so you can adjust it based upon the conditions of the marketplace or the products you're going to introduce into the marketplace. We'll talk about cross-selling and upselling. We'll talk about selling methodologies. We'll talk about the need to get into a vertical. Every one of my clients is in a vertical market of one sort. It may not be their total business, but they've at least started to crack the model of being in a vertical. It's the only way you're going to be successful in the future. In order to get the velocity you need around cloud, you have to go vertical. So let's talk about building that business model as we start to summarize our whole program today. You really have to figure out how do I generate profit, and you can do it in a couple areas. You can do it by focusing on revenue, on increasing profit. You can do it by driving revenue. You can lower your expenses or figure out ways to improve cash flow. So specifically, if I want to drive revenue and I'm going to drive it through sales, the driving force is management. It's not more leads. It's not more salespeople. It's on management being able to say, what do I need to do, and manage what I need to do in that model. Let me show it to you a little differently. Let's say, for an example, I want to generate more profit. And I can do that, again, through cash flow, through increasing revenue, or lowering expenses. Well, in this particular example, I want to drive revenue. And how do I drive revenue? Well, I can, on the far right-hand side, focus on penetrating my existing accounts. And we'll show you how to do account planning. We'll show you how to do cross-sell and upsell based upon the products you have to increase revenue. 86% of the fastest growing solution providers use a cross-sell, upsell account planning tool, and we'll show you how to do that. But in this particular example, I could also go to services on the left-hand side. And I could increase revenue by increasing my billing rates from 175 to 2.25. Or I could get better realization or utilization rates out of my technical teams. And that's all important. But today, I just want to show you an example. If you want to drive revenue by getting net new accounts, I want to get 8 net new accounts a year. I can do it in 2 different ways. You can say, well, I got volume. I want to get net new, so I got to get more leads. So you jump into some marketing program that says, I want to get more leads. That's not the secret. Or you say, I want to train my salespeople, and I want to send them through a sales training program. That's not the secret. Both are important. Leads and sales training are important. But what you want to do is look at the lowest level of business driver to be successful. So if you look at on the left-hand side where it says volume and then it says leads, you go all the way down to you got to have a good brand, you have a message, and you have to have the right activity on the leads. You have to have the right number of cadence of email blasts, business at breakfast meetings. I don't do lunch and learns anymore. We'll stop you from doing that, and we'll be able to focus on better activity. And that's the secret from the lead perspective, is the right activity. Now, on lead conversions, that's the most important element, because you may have 10 leads. How many of those are you converting to orders? And so you got to have some skills, got to have some tools to manage the leads and the number of leads that come in, and management has to watch how many leads come in and what you do with them, but it's the activity that you take place in generating those leads that become critical. Are you doing the right activity? Are you following up within 24 hours? What is your message to that person who raised their hand at that community connections program, or you raise your hand at that breakfast meeting you had? That's the important element. Or I could increase net new accounts by increasing my sales effectiveness, more importantly. Sales effectiveness, well, what does that mean? Well, I have to win more opportunities than I lose. But the real key is pipeline metrics. Do I have enough leads coming in at the first of every month or throughout the month to feed the pipeline? How many leads a month do you need in order to hit your number? You might know the number of orders you need to hit your revenue and the number of closes per month you need to hit your revenue goal. But do you know the number of leads? So we want to take you a step further and say, let's show you a growth pattern for that. So That's kind of the business planning side. From a sales planning side, we also want to help you get better. Now, each of these things this is the pizza I'm talking about. I'm sharing you a lot of ideas. We're going to take one slice at a time to help you really enjoy it. So we'll take some time, and on the left-hand side, talk about account planning. We'll talk about market planning. We'll talk about training plans. We may talk about how to have a better idea of who your competition is and what your competition is selling. For an example, do you have a copy of each of your competitors' proposals? You should have, and we'll show you how to do that. Market value becomes an important part. If I'm going after the legal market in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I live, I better know how many lawyers there are that have 3 lawyers or less, maybe 5 to 20 lawyers, or 25 lawyers and above, because I need to figure out my market segment from that perspective. So all of that becomes critical around that. So are you building a growth-focused organization? From a sales and marketing perspective, these are some of the elements that we like to have a recipe for each one of these. So think of this as your cookbook. And we'll talk about your timelines of actions. As an entrepreneur, a 2-person company, a 20-person company, you need a timeline of your actions. What things are going to happen in the next 6 months? I have a meeting with my banker. I'm going to take a vacation. I have an SMB Nation event I'm attending. I need a company meeting every month, and we'll talk about how to do that. What are the standards of activity if I'm an entrepreneur by myself and I'm selling? What are my activity standards? When I started my business, I had to meet 2 people a month who were net new referral kinds of people who could refer business to me. Who are my target accounts? Where do I want to go after? What's my organization look like? What's my customer relation program look like? Do you provide Valentines for your customers on Valentine's Day? Give them each a teddy bear? Do you send them an anniversary card at the anniversary of their contract thanking them for their business? Are you doing a customer appreciation event every year? What are you doing to improve customer relations? What am I doing to manage my sales activity? Am I using CRM? Am I using other places around Office 365? From a recruitment and training perspective, how am I recruiting new people? I was working with a partner today, and a major vendor recruited 2 people out of his technical staff. How am I replacing those people? Recruiting is a constant issue. Whether you're sales management or personnel management, it's something you always have to be doing because the good people you're looking for may not be looking when you're looking. What are my marketing materials, and are they any good? Are they written by someone who really understands the business? We'll help you evaluate that. Awareness campaign. What's your public relations campaign? This costs nothing. Do you know the editors of the local business journal? Do they know you? The newspaper editors, do they know you? Is there a technology association in your area? Are you a participant? Do they know you? And then what kind of partners and alliances? We'll talk about how to be a business ecosystem partner and why that's critical. And then who's the competition? What's your revenue and product projections for the next 24 months? That's a critical element most people forget. As the owner of the business, you need to have a vision of what your business is going to look like in 24 months. You need to have an organizational map of what it's going to look like in the next 24 months so that you can really understand the business and where you're headed. It gives you vision, it gives your employees vision, and it gives you an opportunity of where you're going to take the organization. If you're a small organization, that's okay, but you still need to have a vision of where you're going to take it and how you're going to continue to support your customer base and net new customers. So in starting to close the program, I just wanted to share with you some performance indicators. Now we have 42 different metrics we can measure and beyond. I don't want to get that complex. But you need to figure out your margin percentage goals, maybe your customer penetration goal. We'll talk about net new customers and account planning and cross-selling and upselling. What's your pipeline booking levels, cost of sales, average order size, a competitive replacement goal. You may know one of your competitors in the marketplace and you want to replace 2 of their customer support. Or your backlog value goal. How many hours of technical time do I have in my backlog? Or how many backlog of dollars that I have yet to deliver should be my backlog? Very, very important element. You always need to have a backlog of to be billed dollars, to be billed hours, so you have an idea of what that's going to be, and that's why recurring revenue is such an important element. From a sales perspective, you want to get a feel of what your pipeline is all about. How many opportunities do you really have by stage of the sale? Do you have 5 opportunities you're trying to close, but nothing behind that? And that's part of the vision that will help you look at and say, where am I headed from that aspect of building your business from that area? So let me just share with you real briefly the 3 opportunities that SMB Nation's put together for you. We're going to lead those. Acumen Management and Channel Consulting will be leading the 3 groups. The first one is the Board of Advisors, Accelerate Your Cloud and Mobility Practice. This is an intense 5 sessions over 4 months that we're going to cover the aspects of how do you really build a successful cloud or mobility practice. We have 26 different tools. We have done this for the last 3 or 4 years. We boiled it down into 4 sessions. Plus, you get 2 hours of one-on-one consulting with myself or Keith Lubner to really sit down and say, what's unique about your business? What don't you understand? What do you understand? And how can we really help you? And you get all of that for only $875. And you can look at the SMB Nation Board of Advisors. You can download a lot more detail about this particular program. You can download an application and get all involved with us. We're going to start the programs this year on this program, and we'll be running this continually. But it's going to be 5 sessions over 4 months. The next one is really a 10-month program. It's Board of Advisors Monthly Business Acceleration Program. This is the program for you that if you really want to grow your business and make a commitment to grow, you'll be meeting with 15 to 20 other solution providers where we'll work on the webcast just like we are today. Much more interactive than what I've done this today. And if you have questions, make sure you submit those to us so we can answer questions today on these programs. This is a program where we're going to look at your business. We'll be looking at your leadership capabilities. We'll be looking at how you grow your organization, what's your business model, what's working, what's not, and you build some accountability with your partners and the people who will help you grow your business as you're going to help them grow their business. You can go to Acumen Management and take the business assessment tool. It's a prerequisite for this. It's a tool, whether you join the program or not, you can take that assessment, but it's an assessment that will show you what's working in your business, the areas that are weak, the areas that need improvement. From sales, marketing, operations, HR, to business governance, it's all there. Plus, you get access to the Acumen Sales Management Toolkit. These are 40 tips, 40 documents that are available for you that I've created over the years that are used by hundreds of solution providers to run their sales organizations more effectively. That's a $175 value all by itself. And this program is only $3,000 a year, but it's quarterly payments because we understand cash flow, we understand business issues, but it's only $3,000 a year. The last program is sales and marketing. This is a program that if you feel you're weak in sales, you feel you're weak in marketing, you can join this program. It's a 10-month program where we're going to help you build what we call predictable revenue. Again, go to smbnation.com/board of advisors and you'll find a lot more information on these programs. This program is only $2,500. It's semi-annual payments. You can send your salespeople as part of the program. You can send your marketing people as part of the program, or you can attend all of the programs. We're flexible on that. It's set up by the partner organization, and we'll be able to help you in any way put this together to help you grow your business. So maybe you're ready, maybe you're not, but we want to help you break out and grow to really help your organization prosper. So again, I'm Ken Thoreson. My website's Acumen Management. The blog is yoursalesmanagementguru.com. There are 5 books out there if you want to look at the books that we have on hiring people, doing sales compensation, leading sales teams, as well as a new book called Slammed for the First-Time Sales Manager. If you want to look at that, that's available as well. I'd like to now make sure that we give you time in the last 5 minutes to say if you have questions on anything we talked about or you're concerned about other issues, let's type them in the message box and I'll be happy to answer them. Do we have any questions?
You know, Ken, we actually don't have any in the queue. I'll go ahead and just say again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, go ahead and use the questions feature. We'll be sure we ask them on today's live broadcast.
One question came up was, how do I get access to the business planning tool, what I call the roadmap? If you send me an email, I will email that business roadmap to you. So as you go through your business planning and you want to look at your 5 objectives for the year and you want to assign different people or different aspects or tactics to it to hold people accountable, send me an email at ken@acumenmanagement.com and I'll be happy to send that to you. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ken. So I still don't see any other questions, and I know that we are going to be recording this, of course, and we're going to send out an email tomorrow morning to all attendees. Oh, and Talking got a question. So we have a question from Kevin Knutson. It's, are meetings conducted online, or do they meet somewhere quarterly, etc., for the Business Acceleration Program?
Great question. Thank you, Kevin. They are online, so they'll be interactive. So it'll be a certain time each month, and for any of the 3 programs, they'll all be online. We will have formal physical meetings at the SMB Nation events, where we'll come in and we'll actually have some physical meetings where people can share ideas and workshops in a little bit different format, but those will be at the SMB Nation events. So travel time is less, cost is less, and more importantly, time in your business will be increased.
Great, thank you, Ken. I'll go ahead and do a last call for questions. Okay, so we don't have any other questions, so we'll go ahead and let you get on with your busy day. Ken, thank you so much for presenting today.
Appreciate it. It's been great to be with everybody, and I look forward to working with you in the next 18 months. Thank you very much.